greatest things about Spider-Man's outfit, his costume?
What?
He is completely covered. So any kid could imagine he's Spider-Man.
Fellas, on Friday, the newest part of the Spider-Man mythos is released with Insomniac's highly anticipated Spider-Man 2. And I, for one, am quite excited. So Spider-Man is my favorite character in all of media. As a kid, I watched Sam Raimi's Spider-Man and fell in love with not only Spider-Man, but comic books. I would read Spider-Man comics, I would watch Spider-Man cartoons, I would play Spider-Man video games, I had Spider-Man themed birthday parties. I truly loved this character. But as I started growing up, I kind of cared less and less for him. I stopped reading comics entirely, I didn't even bother watching Amazing Spider-Man 1 or 2 in theaters. I didn't really pay attention to the character until, and I can't believe I remember this so clearly, I was taking a sick day from school when I saw the news that Sony and Disney had reached an agreement and Spider-Man would join the MCU. I was taken back to when I was growing up and I fell back in love with the character and his mythos. I have seen every single movie in the franchise more than twice, some lots of times. But today, in celebration for the release of the second Insomniac game, I have a confession to make. I've never actually beaten the first game, or played it for that matter. So today I have two goals. One is to speedrun the first Insomniac Spider-Man game, kind of need to beat it in a crunch. Deadlines, people. But the problem is I also have this big explanation about just what makes Spider-Man so special. So you could be thinking, Ryan, for the love of God, just make it 2 different videos. Okay, you're probably right, but
He was shy and so forth, and it turned out he was somebody that the readers could relate to, so he became very successful. He became our most popular character.
In August 1962, Amazing Fantasy issue 15 was released, and well, I think you know the rest. Created by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, Spider-Man went on to become one of the most popular characters ever.
Spider-Man cereals!
And for good reason. Never before could the average person relate to these larger-than-life characters. You look around the landscape of comics at the time, and who could people actually relate to? Batman, rich. Superman, literally a god. The X-Men have their own school. The Fantastic Four, too smart for me. Jokes aside, Spider-Man might be the most relatable character in comic books, just because a big aspect of the character is his life as Peter Parker, or Miles Morales, or Gwen Stacy. We'll get to that conversation. But the driving force of most narratives come from the idea of sacrifice, where Peter has to miss a play, or Miles is running late to his dad's party. It all comes with a bit of sacrifice. Sacrificing your life as the man or woman under the mask to protect those in need. It's with that sacrifice that is extremely relatable to a lot of people. Not to the extent, of course, but everyone in life has to make choices and won't ever be able to please everyone. That's just the truth of life. But it's not just choices he makes and sacrifices. Peter normally works at pretty dead-end jobs, whether it is taking pictures of himself for commission, or in the movies he's delivering pizza and doing a bad job at it. He's awkward, he's shy. For a bit in the comics he didn't have many friends. He's an underdog. You want to root not for Spider-Man's success, but Peter Parker's. The reader or viewer wants everything to work out for the man behind the mask, because we understand the struggle of the man behind the mask. But the reason the general public and why I started liking Spider-Man was not only because of how dope Spider-Man's powers are, but also because how his personal relationships affect basically everything. The double life crosses over a little too much for the poor guy, but the story of Peter Parker, at least, is an extremely easy one to root for. We want him to be happy because of how much he sacrifices to protect people who don't even know who he is. He's looking out for literally anyone, just to make sure New York doesn't become an absolute shit show. The absolute greatest strength of the character of Spider-Man is the relatability, his easiness to root for, and his exposure to general audiences, for better or for worse.
What the hell was that?
But in the wise words of some yellow text box, with great power. Alright, so I've never actually speedran a video game before, and I thought maybe, just like maybe, this would be a little challenging if my first speedrun was for Spider-Man. And I don't even know where I'd begin, I don't know what I would do. So I'm gonna look up a video to figure out how to speed run real quick. A half hour? Yeah, I got time.
So today we're speedrunning through Marvel's Spider-Man. This aiming animation to make ourselves face up, move to this location on the door, and do the aiming animation again on this area of the door. After this, if we tap down and wait a few seconds, we're set to jump off and glitch through the wall, or to a vent that appears even though the building isn't there. If we can get onto this vent, we can go through it and effectively skip 5 minutes of the game.
All of that for 5 minutes? What the fuck? I realized the only way I could even feasibly speedrun was to unlock a darker half, a half I didn't want anyone to ever see. Where am I? Hold on, I gotta pull up my fucking... None of this fucking fits, god damn it.
Fist until we get into a cutscene where he beats us up a bit until we can start playing again. Now it's time to go to our normal job, work.
That takes us to fucking 11:45.
It's reloading.
Well, as you can see, we're just a little behind schedule here. This might be a tad harder than I thought. What the hell
For you,
did
Yuri,
Scorpion do
anything.
to go to the
I'm on my
fucking
way.
raft? He does not deserve this shit. Free my boy.
That's what Twitter's been saying.
Looks like
Free
Jameson's got a
Scorpion.
new episode out.
Hashtag
Number
free
one
Scorpion's
fan
been
thinks about the
trending.
So, as a first-time player, I will say this game is a lot of fun. So much fun, if I wasn't trying to finish this game as fast as possible, I would have done these stupid little towers. It's kind of hard to do this quickly when I have to run around and get introduced to every single side thing. I'm sure I could skip all of this. Let's just see where I should be pace-wise.
And then it's time to fight Chakra again because somehow he already escaped. In this fight, the fastest way to complete it is to throw something at him, do a combo, and immediately repeat. This works.
Oh, we're supposed to be at the Shocker fight already. Oops. This speedrun thing isn't happening, is it? Well, I am about to play a very normal paced playthrough of Insomniac's Spider-Man, which is fine. I didn't expect this to go very well at all. So let's get on with the totally normal playthrough. Come out! What the fuck?
And then I picked up this, I went in the freezer and picked up this big object, and I thought it was like frozen ham. And I kept saying that, I was like, whoa, this is crazy. And it turned out it was a bag of ice.
So we might be an hour and a half behind schedule as I beat the Shocker fight in about 2:20, which is not great for a speedrun. I think it's good for a totally normal playthrough though. So yeah. After playing another tedious non-Spider-Man mission, we had finished Act 1 of Spider-Man in a little under 4 hours. So let's see where 3 hours gets us in the old speedrun. Like, this game has a lot of moments that you have to play, so I'm going to assume it isn't that bad.
Instead, we can simply punch him 2 times, wait a bit so we don't do the last hit in the combo, and punch him twice again. This will get him in a stun lock, and we can end our time as soon as we land our last punch. And there we go. 3:47:34.
He's done already. What the fuck? God damn it. So with any character that has been around for as long as Spider-Man, there are bound to be some, issues. Not like comic issues, but like real issues.
I want you to kill Peter Parker.
Spider-Man has a lot of garbage, and I'm not just talking about the content linked to him. But we should start with that because it is kind of funny. Okay, I'm doing like everything I can to hold back just covering the Mark Webb Amazing Spider-Man movies. But like, I might have my thoughts on those movies. Come on, boring! What the fuck is that thing? More egregious though is Sony's unwavering idea that they could make a whole-ass cinematic universe with Spider-Man villains. No, they're not using Spider-Woman or Miles Morales or just a different Peter Parker. No, their grand plan is to make a universe that so far consists of Venom, Morbius, fucking Michael Keaton.
I'm not sure how I got here. Has to do with Spider-Man, I think.
What? Did you read ahead in the script? Are you fucking kidding me? And Kraven, in an empty world where they loosely talk about Spider-Man's existence. So in this universe, there isn't a Spider-Man, but everyone kind of acts like there is, and I am just so confused. It doesn't help that the Venom movies made money, and Morbius was the biggest joke on the internet for a little bit. But that's on the film front, which has been doing very well. You might have your reservations on MCU Spider-Man, but it has been nothing but a success for both Sony and Disney. And the games have been good, both PS4 and Miles Morales. But what about the medium the character was born in? comic books. Well, I read the latest issue of Amazing Spider-Man to find out, and well, who the fuck is Paul? It seems ever since the Civil War storyline, when Spider-Man revealed himself to the world that he was Peter Parker, that Marvel just thought the character was far too removed from where he was, and essentially erased history from Peter and Mary Jane's wedding, which happened in 1987. What? That is over 20 years they decided to rewrite with the infamous One More Day story. It seems that the editorial team over at Marvel think what has made Peter Parker relatable for all of these years is his single life, no friends, being a loser and such. They do not account for the growth of him as a person over years. 20 years! God forbid someone fall in love and have a kid because, well, how are we supposed to relate to him? We're all virgin losers and such. Taking away an important aspect of the Spider-Man character is a giant fuck you from Marvel. Characters can grow. That is what storytelling is. That's how you properly write a character. So the comic books have done an injustice to the character. Happens. All the time. At least there's the legacy for the fans to latch on to. Oh, Jesus. For some reason, a group of fans on the fucking Bird app have taken to the app to just spew nonsense. Like always. The main debate comes with Peter Parker being Spider-Man and Miles Morales being Miles Morales. So let's take a look at legacy characters. These have been a thing in comic books for a long time. Some of the most popular characters currently are legacy characters. Carol Danvers isn't the first Captain Marvel, it's this fucking dude. John Stewart isn't John Stewart, he's the Green Lantern. Wally West is still the Flash. Hell, Dick Grayson was Batman for a while. And you don't say, oh, that's Dick Grayson. No, that is Batman. Miles Morales was created at the weird point for Spider-Man media. During the wake of casting for the reboot of The Amazing Spider-Man, Donald Glover wanted to be cast as Spider-Man, inspiring comic writer Brian Michael Bendis to create a black Spider-Man named Miles Morales. You can have your opinion on the character when he was created, kind of just being a tad boring, but it is inarguable the type of impact Miles has had in such a short time. It's crazy to think there are now 2 crazy popular Spider-Men with the success of the Spider-Verse movies. There are now more than enough popular Spider people, and that's actually amazing. Spider-Man in modern comics has had a bit of a rough go about, but even then in other media his popularity has never wavered.
I'll chase you to the ends of the earth!
The amount of characters I still want to see adapted to the games or the movies is staggering. It feels as though we have barely touched the surface of the entire mythos of Spider-Man, something that shitty online fans and Sony's undying want for a villain cinematic universe can't stop. The journey in the second act began with trying to track down a doctor at this Halloween party, and it's just really fun and a neat way to show that this version of Peter does have more rogues in there. But of course something goes wrong and it is up to Spider-Man to stop them. Except he's not quick enough, and the guys get away.
Hey yo, what the fuck?
I want to take this time to talk about Act 2 of this video game and just how perfect it is.
But I'm not made out of glass.
You snuck into the middle of an...
Women, am I right, fellas? Huh? Am I right? Like, this sprawling mystery that is big enough to take down old Norman Osborn is just so much fun. It's an intriguing story that keeps tugging you along to the point where you can't put down this game. Like everyone knows, probably, fairly early on that Lee is in fact the main villain. But with the teases of a looming 8-limbed creature on the horizon, the story draws itself out, and by the time we actually defeat Martin Lee, fairly early on, in a pretty anticlimactic first fight, the invasion of the raft and the ending of the formation of the Sinister Six is perfect. It brings us a Spider-Man who is on his back foot, a man who is trying to keep everything afloat, both as Spider-Man and as Peter Parker. It was in this second act of the game that I really felt like I was playing one of the best Spider-Man stories. We'll get to the whole of the game a bit later, but for this second act, it felt like it was genuinely just a love letter of every aspect of the character, from the movies to the Ultimate Comics to the shows. It gave the spotlight to a character that many didn't know and gave him a large bit of priority, making his story the inciting incident. I cannot say enough good things about this part of the game. The negatives are the same you've heard for years. Miles and Mary Jane missions kind of take you out of it, or it's at least a jarring diversion of what you were playing. Other than the MJ mission at the train station, that's actually kind of fun. And the Martin Lee fight is very anticlimactic, but the second fight is better, so I think it's fine.
We tried to bring comics a little more into the real world. You know, I shouldn't really say this, but the chances are that possibly even you and I aren't perfect.
So now that all the villains were out, it was up to me, Spider-Man, but I'm totally just Spider-Man, to round them all up and save the city now that a bioweapon had been released. By the way, Doctor, that's illegal. Anyway, I played actually a really fun fight against Electro and Vulture, and was able to stop them because this game actually isn't that hard on its normal difficulty. So with those two down, it was time to take on the next two, being Rhino and Scorpion. This drug-induced coma Peter has is neat, but it's a little whatever. One more stealth mission for the road, huh? You're really torturing me right now, huh, game? Fuck you, game. Fuck you, I fucking hate you. But it is time to kick their asses. My game crashed. Alright, no biggie, I'll do it this time. It crashed again. Nothing. My game just crashed upon launching. Uh-oh. Fuck, man. What is happening? Hold on. I looked and I found nothing. The game just crashed and I was worried I was about to lose the last, 3 hours of gameplay. I didn't know if I was actually strong enough to continue it, if that was the option. That's just a waste of time. But with great power of making a Spider-Man video essay about the PS4 version of the character comes great responsibility. Why am I a fan of this character? Bad things happen to him all the time and he gets up. So why can't I? Is a question I would ask myself if I was fucking insane. I opened up the game and went into my manual saves, afraid of the last time I manually saved. But in there was my autosave. I clicked on it and was finally able to finish this boss fight. Thank fucking God, guys. Oh my God, I thought I was so fucked right there. I didn't have the strength to fucking replay 3 hours. Oh, let's fucking go. Crisis averted. With that came one more Mary Jane mission. Aren't we lucky? One more for the fucking road, fellas. Let's fucking go. Which was probably the most interesting one, seeing as you got a weapon and the story around Norman and where Harry actually is was genuinely interesting. Well, never mind that, because we gotta stop the last two. The second boss battle with Lee is a lot better than the train one, and there's some really cool visuals in there. However, like every boss fight in this game, it is fairly easy. Well, after zipping through it and beating Lee, it all comes down to this. One final showdown with Doc Ock, and man, I love this stuff. Doc Ock has long been my favorite Spider-Man villain, and seeing his interpretation in this game is just phenomenal. Just a mastermind who is not really just. It's really hard to be just in your actions when you let a bioweapon go, but that might just be me. The final fight is cool, nothing too crazy. And after this final punch, I can stop the timer. I forgot to stop the timer for a little bit where... We did it, guys! We've beat the game. Just in time. This won't make any sense if the video's not out by the fucking Friday. But just in time! Oh, no. There we go. I accidentally... God damn it. Alright, boys, let's shoot the confetti, pop the champagne, do what we need, because I had finished a speed run of Insomniac Spider-Man, and with the final time of 10:32:36, I would officially be in last on the leaderboard for PC, and PS5, and the PS4. Okay, if this counted, this would be the worst run in history. Thankfully, it doesn't count. Maybe I should have skipped the cutscenes. And with that comes great responsibility. There's a lot to dislike about Spider-Man. There really is. Like, whether you dislike the Raimi movies, or the Garfield movies, or the MCU, that's up to you. Media is very subjective. I, for one, and this is my hottest take about the character, I dislike the symbiote. I dislike Venom. It really isn't that interesting to me. But I am willing to give any iteration a try. That's why I'm excited for Spider-Man 2. To me, having Peter and Miles both be around for Peter having the black suit and the creation of Venom is way more interesting. More interesting than Peter is a dick for a little bit, Church Bell, Venom finds Eddie Brock. I'm not necessarily a fan of that story of our protagonist just acting out of character, getting the evil version of them. It's one of my least favorite tropes. That's not to say the symbiote has led to some great moments. In the cartoon The Spectacular Spider-Man, an entire episode is treated as this moral battle between Peter and his loved ones versus the grasp of the symbiote, and it's beautiful. If you haven't seen that show, I recommend it. Could be nostalgia, but oh well, watch it. Spider-Man as a character is the perfect character. A character that balances the over-the-top world of superheroes and the relatability of a person's day-to-day life. What appears to be an actual perfect mix. But with this perfection comes something incredibly flawed. The archetype of the character might be perfect, but how he is handled is far from it. With every incarnation of Spider-Man, you may have valid complaints, whether it's the movies where each one is not perfect except you, my beloved, or the games, or the comics. Spider-Man is incredibly flawed in the sense that the story must go on. Even in something that has a decent conclusion in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3. You can have your gripes about this movie, and trust me, I have my gripes, but it's still a conclusion nonetheless. In Spider-Man 3, Peter learns to forgive, whether it's Sandman or Harry forgiving Peter. But then Peter appears in No Way Home, and if rumors are to be believed, Tobey's Peter's story isn't quite over. It's the same problem that comic books have. The story has to go on. Peter in the comics is literally just a tortured soul, from dying and having his body possessed to getting cucked by a dude named Paul. Sorry, Pauls. Spider-Man is inherently flawed because of two things: his overall popularity and the medium he was born in. Because of Spider-Man's popularity, he will never go away. And I'm not talking about the mantle, because they have tried that over and over again. No, Peter Parker will never go away. He can die 50 times in a year and he will still be around as Spider-Man. And as of now, will continue the status quo. That's what's flawed. His story has to have a new wrinkle, or it has to end, and let someone like Miles be the new main 616 Spider-Man. Being a fan of Spider-Man, you endure a lot of garbage. Like, so much garbage. You look around and might ask yourself why you're even a fan of the character. It's been rough, but then a piece of media comes out and it just shocks you. I would argue Spider-Man PS4 is a perfect Spider-Man story. It has everything you would want, a part of the dual life of Peter Parker. But let's get back on track. I call Spider-Man a perfect flawed character, and what does that even mean? The character of Peter Parker isn't really flawed by principle. I mean, he used to be, and even this game gives us a pretty flawed Peter. A flawed Peter that makes it work in the end. No, Spider-Man as a character is perfect for many different reasons. Costumes, relatabilities, themes. Spider-Man has a perfect supporting cast, a perfect rogues gallery. No, the character of Spider-Man is flawed because everyone's interpretation is different. From Lee and Ditko to Raimi to Watson Feige, everyone is trying to tell wholly different stories. What's most interesting about every major interpretation of Spider-Man, they're all tackling the identity of the character. Raimi does the story of a random kid who got bit by a spider and has to learn with great power comes great responsibility. Responsibility and forgiveness being big themes of Raimi's trilogy. Mark Webb wanted to tell the story about the inner goings of Oscorp and how everyone in Peter's family was involved, from his parents to Norman to this fucking lizard man. They all play a role. The MCU basically asks, what if Peter had another father figure? And we see as Peter tries to impress said father figure, as well as further his legacy. Each version differs from one another and produces a passionate response from fans of either incarnation. I don't think I've ever understood the term media is subjective more than from Spider-Man media. I mean it. I don't like Amazing Spider-Man, but I'm not going to argue with people who do. It's different, a different take on Spider-Man, and some people will like it. That's just the nature of it. Like this video, some people will like it, others won't. Doesn't discredit you one way or another. All of this is subjective. Projects might have objective qualities about them, but whether you like something or not, whether you consider something good or not, isn't objective. I think Spider-Man PS4 is perfect. It takes from a lot of Spider-Man material, and after just bashing it all together, makes what I think is a perfect story and an almost perfect playing experience. Spider-Man, like all things, is subjective. Flawed because of subjectivity, but I'd rather see the different approaches to the character than the same story Lee and Ditko created in '62. Now you know Marvel editorial. You know what would actually be a really cool new story you guys could tell? And hear me out. What if Peter Parker was a dad and in a healthy relationship? I mean, I know it's scary and too much of an ask to not stick to the status quo for you guys, but look at one of the most popular new versions of the character being Peter E. Parker and just steal that. Please. If you've made it this far in the video, please leave a like. It really helps me out. And subscribe if you haven't already.